Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Coordinator of Officials with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is basketball officiating training tape number 3. We have some more clips from another game to take a look at mechanics, some rule stuff, and just talk about general communication during our games. So again, not picking on any one crew or team or player, just trying to get better by looking at plays and how we can work these concepts into our games, and hopefully that's working out for you. So with that, we'll get to the plays. In this play, we'll talk about mechanics, transition, and then the traveling violation that we'll have at the end of this play. So first of all, we'll have a throw-in in the front court. The center and trail close down. They're in good position to help on this play. Proper no call. But then we have a really quick transition play. We need to hustle down so we can get in position to see this play, which this crew does. And we have a traveling violation at the end. So again, every year something that we struggle with is traveling at all levels of basketball. What is, what isn't. Calling travels that aren't travels, and then missing ones that are. So we just need to take a look at Rule 444. It spells out exactly what you can and can't do. In this case, it specifically is going to cover what happens when you establish a pivot foot and then pick it up. You can come down with both feet simultaneously, which doesn't happen here. If you do that, it would be a legal play, but in this case, we have a dribble, right foot established as the pivot foot, and then he picks up the right foot, puts it back down before trying for goal, which results in a traveling violation properly called by the center official in this case. It's coming from his side even though it's in transition, so this is the center official's play, or the trail and two-person as they're coming down in transition. They would view this play and make this ruling. Well done. On this play, we're going to have a dribble drive originate from the trail's primary responsibility into the leads, and then have a play at the rim. So couple things. First of all, very good coverage. We have who we're supposed to have. Trail closes down so we can have a better look at this dribble drive, but then once it leaves his primary area, we're now going to defer to the lead. It's now his play at the basket. He's in excellent position to see this play all the way from the beginning to the end so that he can rule on it, and we have a proper foul call with the basket going in for one free throw. So again, look at verticality, look at the rule. It's 445. So right after you look at that traveling rule, keep on reading and you'll check out verticality. Something that we need to know so we can rule on this type of play, on arc plays, anything involving something similar to this. So if the secondary defender, or any defender for that matter, comes over and jumps from point A and lands at point A, so they're not moving while they're in the air, they are allowed to rise vertically. Now notice that 42 puts his arm down into the shooter. This is violating his verticality, and this is enough for a foul. Now 42 maintains his arm straight up, his body straight up, and he rises vertically in that space. Then any contact that would occur would be as a result of the offensive player creating that contact. So we don't want to penalize defenders for being legal defenders as we would have here until he puts his arm down into the shooter and then a foul is properly called. So just take a look at the verticality rule and make sure that we don't penalize defensive players for playing good defense. If they rise vertically, then that should be a no call or potentially an offensive foul if we have enough displacement contact. And then again, good job of the trail of closing down, and then when it leaves his area, trusting the lead to take this play at the basket. Nice job. On this play, we'll have a throw-in in the front court on the end line, and then we're going to have a throw-in out to the division line. And notice that the offensive player jumps from the front court, is airborne when he receives the ball, and then subsequently comes down in the backcourt with control. So this is a fairly typical play in a season, but maybe not occurring every game, but it does happen probably a handful of times in a season, and we just need to be ready for the different aspects that this rule covers. And the rule that we're talking about in this situation is 993, page 59 of the rule book. And it says that during a jump ball throw-in or while on defense, a player may legally jump from his or her front court, secure control of the ball with both feet off the floor, and return to the floor with one or both feet in the backcourt. The player may make a normal landing, and it makes no difference whether the first foot down is in the front court or backcourt. So in this case, clearly lands in the backcourt, and we have no issue. This fits the rule perfectly. The ones that become a little bit more dicey are when they come down with a foot and then take a, in the front court that is, and then take a step into the back court. And you're going to hear a lot of howling from all the experts. But just remember that they have that exception on the throw-in, that they have the ability to come down after securing control of the ball airborne. They can come down with 1 foot down in the front court, step into the back court, or land in the back court and still be good with no violation like we have here. So just be prepared for this on throw-ins. When the throw-in ends up out of the division line, just be prepared to rule on this, and you can reference this rule when making those decisions. So well done by the crew in this play. Every once in a while you have a play that has all sorts of things going on. You have rules knowledge, mechanics, judgment, people management, all the sorts of things that make officiating challenging, rewarding at the same time. And breaking it down, you'll see that we have a competitive matchup on the block in front of the team bench, and we have the lead who flexes over. This is proper mechanics to get in position so that we can view this play from beginning to end, see it start, develop, and finish, so that we can rule on it properly. In addition, the C and the trail have some other things that they have to consider, including basket interference, rebound contact, all that goes into that judgment as well. So let's take a look at the rule as it relates to basket interference. And we'll want to take a look at goaltending as well. It's not applied in this particular situation, but on occasion, officials will use those terms interchangeably, so they'll say basket interference when it's goaltending and vice versa. And we just need to make sure that when we're using those terms that we use the ones that apply, especially when we're communicating with coaches or players about what we've ruled on. We need to make sure that we use the proper rules terminology. So let's take a look at the rule for basket interference. That's Rule 4.6 on page 29. And it says that basket interference occurs when a player touches the ball or any part of the basket, including the net, while the ball is on or within either basket. And you'll notice that the defender, he makes contact with the net, almost pulls it down when the ball comes off the front of the rim. And we could have basket interference if the ball is on or within that cylinder, but when it comes all the way off, we're not going to have basket interference in this case, because we are making contact with the net when the ball is off of the cylinder. If it's on or within the cylinder, then that would be a different case. But in this case, it comes all the way off the rim at the time that he's making contact with the rim. So we have a no call for basket interference. Goaltending talks about when a ball is in its downward flight, which on a shot attempt, which we don't have in this case. So the only thing we could have in this particular situation would be basket interference, and that's properly no called. And then I like the foul call and the judgment on that. So just be aware of basket interference, goaltending, our mechanics, being in position to see this competitive matchup on the block, and that all those factors go into judging this play properly. And I think the crew does a very nice job with this play. So again, basket interference, take a look at the definition, page 29. Take a look at the definition of goaltending as well to see if it applies in a situation or not, and make sure that we use the proper terms as this crew does in this play. On this play, we have a transition play followed by block charge decision that we need to make, and then a scramble after the block charge no call that we have. So let's talk mechanics. First, we try our hardest to get back. These players are really fast, really quick, and we do our best to get in position. because that's where we get in trouble when we're not in the best position to see these plays. Because block charge plays are tough as it is, but then when we're trying to trail the play, that's really tough. So we might have to stop, take it from behind. We might have to stop when we're straight on from that block opposite the table. We might have to stop and look at it. If we keep moving towards the baseline, it's really hard to get these plays right when we're still moving as the contact occurs. So if we can get stationary, that's ideal. But again, this is a quick transition play, so we do our best to get back. Secondly, if you look at our restricted area rule, it talks about outnumbering fast break situations, and that means that defender or defenders in an outnumbered break are secondary defenders by rule, which means that they try to establish legal guarding position in the restricted area. That would be a blocking foul, assuming that they're grounded, which the defender is here. So we have an outnumbered break, 2-on-1, so this player is secondary defender by rule to begin the play. Now, just because they're secondary does not mean that they can't establish legal guarding position outside the restricted area. They can, and still draw a charge. But they can establish initial legal guarding position in the restricted area and get a player control foul or a charge. It would have to be a block if they're grounded. So in this case, you'll see that the secondary defender gets there, establishes legal guarding position, and then he is able to move to the side and maintain legal guarding position prior to contact, and he's grounded. So in this case, he's established legal guarding position prior to contact. The player plays through his chest. This would be an offensive foul even though he's a secondary defender by rule to begin the play. He establishes legal guarding position outside the restricted area, and we have significant contact to the chest area, which should result in an offensive foul. Now, if this is the initial legal guarding position that he's establishing, not maintaining already established legal guarding position, that would be a blocking foul as he is grounded in the restricted area. So, really tough play. But I think it's one that we should have a whistle on, and we should have had a whistle on it last year. I think this is enough for an offensive foul, and C's in transition, we should be prepared to help, but this is ultimately the lead's play. So take a look at the restricted area rule, legal guarding position, what we need to do to get a block or charge. Again, a tough play, but I think he establishes legal guarding position prior to contact, maintains it even though he's grounded in the restricted area, which would be enough for an offensive foul on the transitioning offensive player. This play is another really interesting play involving a potential backcourt violation, and it's something that can catch us off guard if we're not ready for it. So first of all, the rule, again, Rule 9.9, and it's looking at Article 1, a player shall not be the first to touch the ball after it has been in team control in the front court if he or she or a teammate last touched or was touched by the ball in the front court before it went to the backcourt. So we need to take a look at team control status, what gets us in the front court or not, what keeps the ball as backcourt status or front court status. So take a look at those definitions as well. So in this case, we'll see that the player who receives the ball gets a foot down, doesn't quite get the left foot down, and then passes the ball. Let's say he gets that left foot down, picks up the right foot, and passes. Now what do we have? We're going to have team control in the front court, and then we have a player jumping from the backcourt to the front court who catches it airborne and lands in the front court, which would be enough for a backcourt violation. Again, something that can catch us off guard. We just need to be ready for it. Mechanically, this is usually the trails play, but center, you might have to help on this one if we're in transition like we are here. If, for example, that player gets his left foot down in the front court, picks up the right foot from the backcourt, passes it to the airborne player jumping from the backcourt to the front court. Again, if it was really easy to officiate, everyone would do it. This is a tough play, and the officials get this one right, but just be ready for it. This kind of stuff can catch us off guard if we're not ready. Every season we have a situation where a player will have blood on themselves or on their uniform, and every season we have some difficulties with how we handle these type of situations. So I like how this was handled by the crew. We have blood on number 3. We go over to the coach and give him the options. We tell him we can have a substitute for number 3 who can come in and shoot the free throws, and you can replace him and have him get cleaned up, or you can call timeout, and if at the end of the timeout the situation has been remedied, then he can come back into the game and we don't need a sub, but you could call timeout to do that. What we typically see as a mistake or something that officials do is we allow them to get it taken care of without having a timeout charged to them. If they want to keep that player in the game, they need to call timeout. There is no 20-second or 30-second provision in the rule book to remedy that situation. Go over to the coach, give them the option. If you need to change uniform, tell them please do not do it on the court. You need to go to the locker room out of sight to do that. But go to the coach, bring the player over there, explain the options, say we need to get this cleaned up. If you want to keep this player in the game, you need to call timeout, and if it's fixed by the end of the timeout, then that player can stay in the game. If not, we're going to need a sub for that player. And then also give them the options for cleaning up the jersey or uniform at that time, and make sure that we're not changing on the court, those sorts of things. So again, I think this situation is well handled by the officials. They notice the blood, they go to the coach, say, hey, you want to keep this player in the game to shoot free throws? You can call timeout. If not, we need a replacement, we need a sub. If you call timeout, it needs to be fixed by the end of the timeout. If so, he can remain in the game. If not, we're going to need a sub at that time. So good job by the officials getting the player to the bench, get it taken care of, explaining the choices, and then calling the timeout. Okay, a lot longer tape this time. Had a lot of interesting plays to look at, a lot of things to consider when we're officiating out there, mechanics, rules, judgment, communication. Officiating is a tough job, and I really give everyone credit for the work that you do. You do really great work for our student athletes and coaches and schools in Minnesota. So you have my appreciation. Thanks for everything you do. Hopefully these tapes are helpful for you as we're going through the season. We have a few weeks to go. Stay strong, finish strong, and we'll talk to you in a few weeks.